Love to.
Stuart, this is Emma. Could you speak about kindness?
Um, without kindness, understand there's no real communication in the world. People are at each other's throats. They take advantage of each other. But to have the heart chakra open is the key to a spiritual life. I mean, nobody is spiritually enlightened unless there's happiness in them, there's kindness in them, there's empathy for the sufferings of other human beings. They're willing to go beyond just lip service gratitude through their actions and the way they live. They truly contribute something to the uplifting of the human race. I mean, it's like bodhisattvas. It's what bodhisattvas are supposed to do. And I think in a way, we're all kind of bodhisattvas. We just need to find that depth in ourselves, which can keep our hearts open. And kindness is, kindness, compassion, empathy, most extraordinary ways to communicate to other human beings. And when a person usually can do this, not putting on an act, everybody can look through an act, but when it comes organically from their heart, when they spend time developing a system that can keep their hearts open, and their very actions are kindness, empathy, love, they become a servant of God in the world. It's a very essential ingredient in the development of a spiritual life. And the Dalai Lama talks about that all the time, being kind, And, I mentioned this a couple of times already. I saw a documentary with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And they were like a couple of children, gentle and sweet with each other and kidding each other and having fun. And these were two 80-year-old men that truly had lived through a life of horror, both of them, being kicked out of one being kicked out of their country, the other one living through that madness in South Africa. And yet they were like two children, twinkles in their eye, love inside them, kindness. They transformed all of the madness that took place in their life into an open heart. That's what spiritual practice is supposed to do, no matter what practice you do, whether it's Christianity, which was Desmond Tutu, or the Buddha, Kundalini yoga, whatever it is, ultimately is supposed to transform us into a state of ananda, a state of bliss, a state of happiness. And our interactions with the human race is kindness, love, unconditional giving, and unconditional receiving. A very important subject, and I think it's a subject that should be at the forefront of every human quest. I've said it before, when I was younger, I studied a lot of philosophy. And almost every philosopher, they came to the conclusion that the ultimate goal of humanity was to become happy. And of course, when I was 20, 22 years old, I would fight with them. How can that be the ultimate? As you get older, you realize it's true. That's the truth. The ultimate goal of living is to become a happy person. By becoming a happy person, we all become children of God. Lisa, please sit up and do the meditation. So it's a really important subject. And ultimately, every human being has to arrive at a place where they have to truly make an effort within themselves to do this kind of thing. I just, been working on a number of these things I publish, that are being posted on my website, this tantric. And a lot of it, the last has to do with kindness and love and happiness and how essential it is that human beings begin to function that way. Otherwise, all you have is war and greed and people kicking each other in the teeth and all these billionaires trying to out-billionaire each other. I mean, it's insane, what goes on in the world. And it's only insane because very few people have developed a system inside that enables them to live with an open heart. And it doesn't matter how much money they make. And I discovered in my own life, nobody in this world is going to make me happy. Yeah, people turn you on, you feel love, but to sustain it over years and a lifetime, I have to work on myself, transform myself to a place inside where I can live with that every day of my life and then share it with people in my life. That's what the meditation is for. And we all know suffering, we all know pain, we've all been through it. But that suffering and that pain is a reminder that we've got to put in the work to transform ourselves into a level of humanity that's on the highest possible mountain, the highest level of what it means to be a human being. And that's to have kindness, love, happiness, empathy, compassion. This takes work on us. So it doesn't just happen. It's not going to just happen because I'm talking about it in this class. Each person has to do the inner work to build a system that can support this, that can keep the heart open organically. Not, I got to think about my heart. It's just open because you have built an inner life that enables it to stay open. So almost every Swami in India, they have an Ananda after them. Ananda means bliss. Very few of them have a lot of bliss, but some of them do, And that's what the Ananda is supposed to mean. They've attained a state of that kind of openness. Does anyone else have a question? I mean, this is all a byproduct of Kundalini Yoga. Because we need to learn to use all the tools that we've been given by God, mind, breath, need, will, chakras. We need to learn how to develop an inner life that ultimately allows us to arrive at a state of Ananda, a state of happiness, a state where we have truly worked out our karma in the world. And we don't work out our karma by being a goody-goody and we work out our karma by becoming a happy person, by living in this world with joy and love and compassion. And there are two elements to this. One is we're born, we have karma. We are come to the earth to be able to work out our karma. We work out our karma through ananda, through love, through peace, inner joy, and sharing that with people in our life. At the same time, we're connected to spirit, and Kundalini enables us to, open to a higher force of energy, a marriage that takes place between the human soul and a higher soul. And that a marriage leads to enlightenment. And there's nothing on the earth keeping us here. We become happy people. We are free of all the bullshit that goes on on this planet. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question about sync.
Yes, let me just tell Emma a very good question. Thank you. Yes, Bob.
We use the phrase being a servant of God a lot. Can you explain what that means?
Well, that's a serious. I mean, look, the ultimate goal of what we're doing is becoming nothing inside. We learn to surrender our ego, our opinions, our anger, our revenge, or all this stuff that runs rampant, all this chaos. Through the practice of inner work and meditation, we learn how to transform all of that stuff into a state of complete openness. We allow the energy of God's spirit to flow through us. That energy begins to guide our life. We become a servant of that energy, which means we live consciously, we live with love. Everything I explained before, we live that way. But our job is to attain that state of nothingness. We got to learn how to transform our egos, our anger, that whole incredible chaos that runs rampant inside people, the sexual energy, the emotional swamp that people live with in themselves. All of that has to be transformed into nothingness, into a complete state of openness. And nothingness in our society is almost a negative, term, but it's not. It just means we are free of ourselves. We can allow spirit to flow through and guide our lives. That energy will enable us to work out our karma. It'll enable us to do extraordinary things in the world. On top of everything else, it'll enable us to have an extraordinary life. And in doing all this, we wind up becoming, it's like Rudy told me, he said, Muktananda was talking about, the guru is God and you got to worship the guru if you want to be enlightened. And Rudy whispered in my ear, I'll never forget it, Stuart, the guru, the best the guru can be is the servant of God. The best the guru can be is the servant of God and the servant of his students. So the highest position on earth is to be a servant. Of course, it requires total humility, total openness, being nothing in yourself, not imposing one's ego on the world, being able to dampen one's charisma and live with whatever charisma God flows through us. It's usually a lot better than the crap that we impose on the world. So two things take place. We are connected spiritually, and we are actively serving that spirit in our life. Now, I'm not saying this is easy to do. Look, it took me years and years of working on myself just to be able to talk this way and to, be a servant of this kind of energy that is flowing through now. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? I hope this is clear because you're all practicing this meditation, and this meditation is not an easy meditation to do, and you come to these classes for a purpose of learning how to transform whatever chaos is inside into a spiritual life, which means learning to live in the world and learning to be free of the world at exactly the same time. And the realization that every human being is a point in a triangle that connects spirit, God, higher energy, with life, the objective world. And the only thing that keeps it from happening with clarity, with love, is just the chaos inside people. And that's what meditation is for. It's to get rid of the chaos and become simple enough inside to just allow oneself to receive that energy and let it guide us in our life. Does anyone else have a question? And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean we become naive and simplistic. And to do what I'm talking about, you have to be really a sophisticated human being. Because you're dealing in the highest levels that humanity can deal with. And it requires spiritual sophistication. Yes, Chris.
Stuart, thank you so much. I wanted to come into the class with the question of how do I achieve nothingness? You really helped me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? I would like to ask. A lot of this stuff is that I talk about is going into the things I've been writing and putting online. And I hope, I don't know, as I say, I don't follow people around, but I hope people are taking 10 minutes to read those things. Because a lot of this is going into that. It's part of my growth. Does anyone else have a question I would like to ask? Okay. Thank you all for your questions. They're very good. And I'm telling you, you all have become my guru. Really have, I come here and I learn and I grow, and it is doing everything I need to help me get closer to God. Sitting here with all of you and doing the work that's essential to allow Shakti to flow to each and every person. So God bless you all and thank you. And there'll be a class tomorrow evening. I'm looking, and also the people that are coming from Europe and Israel. It's extraordinary. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the morning. Amazing, that people are making that kind of effort. So thank you all and God bless you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.